everyone, welcome back to another Character Corner segment. I'm Lily, as always, and this week we're talking about a Ninjago TV series character, Kai, and I love Kai. I think he's very cool and very interesting and a really, really good character. Kai was introduced in the series really like as the main new guy. Like he came in as in his pilot season as this new guy who didn't know much, and I think that was a great way to introduce him to the audience because Kai didn't know much. He felt behind the curve, and I was kind of, rooting for him. As you'll see that you see that theme a lot in books. That the best way to introduce new characters and new universes to an audience is to start with the new guy who doesn't know anything either. And I will get to more characters like that later on, trust me. There's a lot, because good authors know that formula when they're writing, so that it's a really good way to start things out. Kai's family is blacksmith originated. That's his heritage. He is the master of fire, and his sister's the master of water. And his parents were the master of fire and water as well. And I love that the writing of all the characters in Ninjago, really, but were based around the elements that they wield as their power. And Kai's is fire, and he represents all the character traits that represent fire too. And I love that. It's good writing because it helps make each character in that series very unique. And I think that's really good. Of course, good writing is also being able to make situations where they're all together or working with different characters in different groups good as well. And the writing also accomplishes that. So it's all around really good. But it gives all the characters a diverse feeling. Like Kai is like fire. He's, overly confident and a bit cocky. He is incredibly brash. He's passionate about what he does, about anything. Like he just goes and gets it without stopping. He is just on fire for it, literally. He's got a temper about some things. Like he can just get really mad. And he's just a really good get it done, just do it, just get it done without stopping kind of character. And it's good to see that, you have other characters that are the more cool, calculating. Like I don't think Kai's stupid. The problem is he's just usually running so fast that he thinks later in hindsight, oops, that wasn't smart. And, I hate it when people are always like, oh, Kai's kind of not bright. Like, he's not the smartest. Kai is actually very smart, in my opinion. And I do see the fandom kind of torn on Kai. Like, some people really like him, some people don't. And I think he's really a good character. And if you're someone who doesn't like Kai, I'd like to convince you that he is great. And if you do, this is just going to make everyone go, sweet! But for Kai, everyone's little favorite hothead. Or most everyone's, anyway. Kai's also special to me because I write as a hobby, right now at least. And if you're a writer, sometimes writing the opposite character of your personality is really hard to do. For me, that overly confident character just rubs me the wrong way. I have a hard time watching and reading about them, and I hate writing them because I can never, or I could at least never understand them. Like, it came across as very unnatural to me. But when I watched Ninjago with my brother for the first time, I actually really liked Kai. Especially as I knew him more and more as the seasons progressed. I began to really like him, and it kind of made me go, wait a minute, why do I like this overly confident, cocky character? Like, why do I like him? I shouldn't, by all means, but it kind of helped me go, okay, this is one I like, and I figure out why I like him. And, of course, having his arc in general being well-written is good and helps him seem more relatable and real. But yeah, he was definitely, like, the first, I actually do like this overly confident character, and that was really cool for me. It helped me now write all kinds of confident characters, and I feel better doing it. I feel like it's more real. So, kind of special to my heart for that reason. Anyway, so now I'm going to break down Kai's arcs, and Kai really shines to me. And you can watch my fireside chat on this that I did last time. where I broke out the seasons by the characters. And as I said in that one, I felt like Kai really shines the most in, like, more than other characters in seasons 1, 4, and 7. And he gets, like, a third or a fourth in season 5 to me. Like, he has a presence, even if it's not, like, doesn't go anywhere, which is kind of a shame. But it definitely is there. And I'm going to talk about that. So, as I already said before, like, what I established from Kai in the pilot season was like, oh, he's the new guy, and that was a good thing, because, you know. But I'm gonna start with season 1 instead. That was what I really got from him. In season 1, I learned more about his character. Like, I got his personality aspects down right away, but, you know, in the first season, we kind of understand what his motives are and what drives him. Like, he learns pretty early on, it might be the first episode, I think, that he learns that there's this prophecy about a green ninja. I think it's the first episode. And, you know, immediately, of course, Kai, he's like, yes, I want to do that. I want to be the best. I want to be that person. I want to be the most powerful, and I want to save the world and be known. And, yeah. But I was invested in Kai from that moment. Later on, it seems pretty clear that, like, Lloyd is definitely, like, important, and I was like, oh, he'll probably end up being, like, the hero or something. But I was more invested in Kai as a character, and, like, you know, each character shines a bit in that. Like, you know, Jay has family problems, Cole has family problems, Zane has family problems, Thane has an existential crisis. But, you know, Kai ultimately at the end of the day was, like, sitting there as everyone's getting their true potential unlocked, like, hey, wait a minute, what about me? And I was like, oh, like, Kai was being built up through that to be more important, and I was really invested in him. Like, I was like, how's he gonna do it? Is he, you know, maybe he would be the hero. I didn't think, like, I was hoping he wouldn't be, because I thought that would be good for his character to not be. But honestly, it was such a good moment when he does find it. I couldn't have even, like, it was speechless. It was beautiful. Like, you know, this whole time, Kai's just like, I want to be the best. I want to do it. I'm going to get it done. And he's, like, always running at full steam, Kai. Like, it's interesting. Like, he's constantly just running. Like, he thinks in hindsight. He's just going, like, full steam ahead through everything. But as he and Lloyd were in that volcano trapped, you know, it's like all of a sudden he comes to, like, this screeching halt. Like, he can't run out of this. He can't just fight his way out of this. It's a volcano. He can't do that. You know, and suddenly he has to stop. And when he stops, it's almost like he saw who he was and what he was meant to do. Like, ultimately what he was supposed to do. And that was Lloyd. Like, he realized, wait a minute, I'm not the Green Ninja. This kid is. This kid is the hero. I have to protect him. That is who I am. It's like he came to that, and it was so good. Like, it is so cool, too, because to think, like, his power was actually there all along. Like, he didn't have to overcome anything, really. He just had to stop. And then he's like, bing, you unlocked your true potential. Like, you just had to stop and realize it. It was there all along. He just had to stop. And I think that was really cool. It was so, so beautiful. I loved that scene. And yeah, Lloyd takes up the rest of that season, but I really think in all ideal, the season should have ended probably there, in my opinion. Because then it switches gears to more Lloyd. And, you know, I think Kai really took that season. Like, that felt like the defining moment to me. Like, the moment of decision, the climax, and what's Kai going to do is, you know. And he could have come out of that volcano bitter, like, oh, great, it's this kid, I saved his butt. But, you know, he didn't. He was just like, no, I'm going to protect him. And I love that. Like, it's so, so sweet and pretty, and I loved it. It's beautiful. Anyway. But I did feel like there was one aspect to Kai that was left kind of open-ended. And that was his obsession with, like, the power that the Green Ninja holds. Like, he wanted that. And I was like, that's not something you can really 100% cover up. Like, you can, you know, come to terms with who you are and what your responsibilities are, but ultimately, jealousy is still there. And in season 4, like, I felt like that was Kai once again. Like, Kai is, just doing his thing, and, he has his little crush on Skylar, who's also cool. And I love her. I'll do a character corner on her one day, trust me. But he he gets his powers taken away, which is kind of a blow, I think, for Kai in general, because he definitely seems to care about them more than, like, some of the other characters, I think. Like, some of the others are just like, oh, we'll just work around it, and Kai's like, no, that's mine, I think that's interesting as well about him. But he gets those taken away, and he gets pulled aside, by the villain, and, they're just kind of walking and talking together. And another thing I was just like, oh, snap, is that, Kai never says he's jealous. None of the heroes in general, like, Garmadon doesn't call him out on it, Lloyd doesn't, no one knows this, but Chen just looks at Kai and is like, you're jealous, aren't you? I know you are. I can see it. And it's just like, Kai looks away and he's just like, oh, crud. And it's like, it takes the villain to point out this darkness hiding deep down in the hero, and it's like, then he has to overcome that himself. He actually, it's so cool. Like, he gets that staff of power, and he is suddenly wielding all that power that, he wanted, that he was jealous about, and then he's just like, yep, that's not me. I'm becoming something else I don't want to be, and it's like, then they have to destroy it and, smash it to bits. And he just learns that, wait, that's not who I am. And it's like his jealousy then had a nice arc to finish. Like, no, he was not done with being upset about not being special. Like, just because he accepted Lloyd and wanted to be himself and his responsibilities doesn't mean that he still wasn't burning a bit inside over the fact that, yeah, he wasn't the most special. And that's really good that they didn't just leave him hanging there. And it was at that point in the seasons where I thought, well, maybe Kai's done. Like, I was pretty content, but I was happy to see that there was a lot still underneath the surface with this guy that they felt a need to pull out, which is good because Kai has plenty of room for it. In season 5, it felt like it mostly started out with Kai leading it to me. I thought it was going to be Kai again in this season until Cole has a problem, and then Nia has powers apparently, and then Lloyd has a problem, and all those things were then like, oh, it's more like 4 characters, well, or like 3.5 take the season, sort of. I guess I would say if I had to choose one, I think it's Nia's season, in my opinion, but I do think Kai has a stronger presence in there than even Cole does in a lot of ways. Because Kai is struggling with leadership. All of them are, essentially, because Lloyd's gone. Lloyd's always been the leader for some reason. I don't know why. He really shouldn't be. But anyway, Kai's struggling with that because he wants to be, the leader. He wants respect, essentially. He wants to be special, as Kai always really does. He may not be seeking it through power now, or being the most special, but he still wants a role that's special. Like, if Lloyd's gone, and at the beginning of the season, it's so sweet how he's just like, don't worry, Lloyd, I'll protect you always. You're my baby and my child. It's so sweet. Like, he's just he has such a big brother presence. Like, he's just there for everyone. But I like that he has to learn that being the leader is important. It's working as a team. And that is something that is very good about that season. Like, he does learn that. I would say it didn't feel like there was like a defining moment to me, like in the others where he's called out on it or has to stop and directly think about the problem like he does the other times. But at least to me, it felt like at least he is overcoming it. And by the end, I felt like he at least reached some kind of conclusion. It's probably the weaker of his character arcs, but it was still good and it was still there. I mean, I've read and watched character development that's worse, so I still feel like it was good and it was noteworthy. And then we get to season 6, which Kai really doesn't take much part in. He's like the first to get eliminated, by Nauticon in that one. But there is, I only bring this up because it's not Kai's season. That's Jay's season for sure. But Kai did have this moment that comes to haunt him later, and I love that this was included, because it makes the 7th season not come out of nowhere. And it's like they could have just ignored this. Like, we could have just been like, oh, that scene happened and forget about it. But no, they like were foreshadowing, and that's something that Ninjago doesn't really do much of. So I liked that. And that's the scene where Nadakon pulls him in the past and he sees his dad and he's just like has to look away. You know, and I kind of was assuming that he'd run up to his father and like be happy and help him, because that's kind of how Kai's personality is, let alone with his own family. And I was assuming that he would, because I was also assuming his family was dead at this point. I really thought they had died, and you know, it seemed to be hinted that way, at least to me. I didn't know. But it kind of seemed like there was bitterness lying under the surface of Kai, and I was like, well, that's weird. And I kind of thought, well, it'll probably just be shrugged off. Maybe he's just upset with Nadakon. But no, it does come back later in the 7th season, and I see lots of also mixed opinions on the 7th season as well. Some people really like it. I personally think it's a good season. For one thing, I really like that they include more Kai and Nia together, because Nia is a great counter to Kai, her brother. She's like Kai in the sense that she also has a temper and she doesn't take crud from anyone, which is wonderful. But she's also a little bit more calm and thoughtful than Kai is. Like, she's more patient and more willing to think, and a little softer in the way she comes across than him. And you know, she's like, Kai's going full steam and she's like, stop and think, stop and think, stop and think, look at this. And he's just running and barreling through things. And so them together make a really good team, in my opinion. I think they're a really cool pair of characters to watch in action together. So that was great. But Nia didn't feel like she had anything to overcome in that season per se. It was more like she just had it through Kai. So it was just good seeing them together more than she actually had an arc. But Kai definitely did. He definitely had some kind of bitterness toward his family, you know, there going on. That he's just like, oof. And I like, too, that, you know, like he has, like he gets this, you know, helmet and he's just like, wait a minute, my parents were villains. Like, he assumes that, you know, from what the villain is telling him. And, he just naturally assumes that they're evil. But what I like is that Kai never thinks, oh, maybe I should be evil too. Like, maybe they're right. Like, he never does that. Like, he never turns to the dark side like he could have. And yeah, sure, maybe that would have been interesting too. Maybe they could have pulled it off. But I really like that they didn't. And Kai's just like, oh, now I have to kill them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just in him to go, no, I'm going to fight for justice. I know it's right. I'm going to take them out. And I think that was an interesting perspective, because I kind of dislike it when the character's like, oh, you know, my family member's evil, I should also be evil. Like, no, you know, like, not always the case, no. And I like it. It was different. It was good to see a character that was still good the whole time. He just wanted answers and he wanted justice, and he was gonna get it. And, you know, and he confronts his father and he's just like flaming mad, no pun intended. Like, literally, he was ticked. And, you know, Nia's just like, chill out, think, look. You know, it was really good. But in that one, I felt like Kai obviously had to overcome issues with his family. And that was really good. You know, that it kind of, like, capped off all of his arc there, like, in a really nice way. That, you know, all of that things he had gone through, like, that was kind of like the last thing he had to do is, you know, first he just learns who he is, his place, his responsibilities. Then he learns to, you know, overcome his greed for power and his jealousy. And then it's like he learns his place in leadership and how to deal with that. And then he overcomes his family. So it's like nice. And then we get to seasons 8, 9, and 10. And this is where I also see a lot of people like, wait a minute, Kai's a new character. And yes, I would say that it might be a little off the rails from the original Kai, to be fair. But I do like, I had to think of a way to think of Kai in my head, because he comes off, he's the only character to me in the newer seasons, like 8, 9, 10, and so on. I'm only going up to season 10 because I feel like that's just one story in and of itself. But I feel like through those seasons, Kai is still who he is. I mean, he really is still the same character. He has moments with characters where he is kind. He's always had a temper. He's always been overconfident. The only thing I can think of to explain his slightly even more elevated levels of cockiness is maybe just learning, like, overcoming, like, basically 3.5 seasons of development. Maybe he finally hit a point where he's really just good with himself, that he can really be who he is, and all of his aspects are just more elevated than they would have been. At least I had to think of it that way, because he's always been a great character, and I don't think he's butchered, for sure. I don't think he is. So I had to think of a way that it works out, and I think that's what it is. I just wonder if he's come to terms with everything in his life, and he's just finally content and just very much himself. And he still has great seasons, like, you know, he still sits down with Nia and is like, you know, when she's upset, and he's just like, hey, calm down. Like, that's so Kai, very much his personality. So there are scenes where it definitely seems like Kai is still there, to me at least. But anyway, yeah, this has been a little bit longer than some of my other character corners. Kai's very, he's probably got, I have got the most, like, him and Lloyd I would probably have the most to talk about, because I feel like they have the most presence in the Ninjago fandom, at least. But anyway, I hope this was interesting and fun. Please remember to like and subscribe, and enjoy. I hope this was great. Bye!